Hi all, welcome back to the Spruescape Modeling. Today we will be taking a look at Rubicon Models Panzer IV J in 1/56th scale. So, to start off, we'll take a look at the box. It includes, as normal, a list of the kit's features. All hatches can be opened or closed, positioned opened or closed. Don't know why we would put them open, except for maybe some crew figures, as there is no interior. There are photo etch wire skirts included, which actually look like they might be very interesting. There is a jig to assemble those skirts, and there are 2 crew figures included, which I guess is why you would want to put the hatches open. Here you can see on the back of the box they have a brief history of the Panzer IV as a whole, as well as the Panzer IV J specifically. This is, obviously pretty brief, but it's also, a relatively good history for what they really put in there. It also has a really, really simple color scheme here on the back, just white and black gray. And a picture of the decal sheet. So, alright, let's get into this model. Alright, so we'll start off as we always do with the instructions. You've got the same pictures on the box art, your disclaimers, your key, same as with all Rubicon models here, as well as like a vector sketch of the completed product. So, yeah, this is in a, like a brochure style, kind of thing, and the assembly is made up of 8 steps, or 9, and, step 1 looks like it's just going to be assembly of the, lower hull. Step 2 and 2B are the track assemblies. The track assemblies are one piece, except for the wheels, which will be quite useful. Sometimes the link and length tracks can get a little bit unwieldy at this small scale. Then you've got upper hull and turret, turret assembly, and then putting it all together. Then you've got turret skirts in, which they say is optional, but I'm pretty sure at least most OSF-Js did include the turret skirts in, if not all. Then you've got the skirts in on the hull. You can see the use of the jigs here to correctly position it. And then you've got the assembly of all the pieces thus far, adding the skirts in. Here you can see the photo etch. And then the last step is extra road wheels, tracks, and the crew figures, all optional stuff. Then you've got a couple of the same history as on the box of the Panzer IV, with a couple more details about the production. Here you can see the total production numbers of each of the variants. So it says here OSF-J 1,758 were made. And then on the back it just has the sprue index, and then a little advertisement for all the other types of Panzer IVs they have. They have the D, E, F, F2, G, H, J, and Whirlwind. So yeah, that's all for the instruction booklet. It doesn't look like a whole lot of steps, and it looks like assembly will be fairly easy. But there is also quite a bit packed into some of these steps. So yeah, it'll definitely be a fun kit to assemble. Alright, so now we'll be taking a look at the sprues. First up, we have a sprue. This is a common sprue to all late Panzer IV kits. As you can see, it has the guns for the G through J series production of Panzer IVs, lower hull, tracks, side hull, and basic turret shape. So this is a standard sprue for all of the Panzer IVs, late Panzer IV variants. So here, if you look at the bottom of the hull, there's some very nice detail molded on bolts. Personally, I haven't really seen the bottom of a Panzer IV, so can't vouch for its accuracy, but I doubt that it's fully inaccurate. Based on the other Rubicon stuff I've seen, they tend to be very good about accuracy. Here you can see the way that the tracks and the running gear will be assembled. Half the wheels here, and the full tracks around here. Make sure that you've got the correct draping and everything. Very little work, and the tracks do look pretty detailed, especially for the scale. Now, these are just kind of the bare bones of the turret, so they don't have any detail on them. But the suspension does look quite nice. They've got the leaf springs molded in. Again, like I said, you've got the guns here. I think this bottom one is for the J, this one's for the H, and that one's for the G. And with this sprue actually came a second tiny little instruction book, just really one sheet that just had the different ways of assembling the G, H, and J turrets, because like I said, this is a common sprue. So, yeah, I think that there isn't an option to assemble the G or H turrets in this kit because it only comes with the upper turret part for the J variant. I think that there's a couple specifically J things that are in this kit that you can only assemble a J with this kit, which obviously isn't much of a loss. I was looking for a J either way. Alright, so next up we have sprue B. Here you can see more turret pieces. I think this is the standard turret top for the Panzer IV. There's some nice detail that is molded in there, but I don't think I'll be using that. Here you can see the return wheels and the drive sprockets. The teeth are very well molded, and you can see where the tracks are supposed to be on these. This also includes the turret back and front, again, well molded, and a couple of the hatches. It also includes the two crew members, which are significantly more glossy than everything else on the sprue. I don't know what that's about, and it makes it kind of hard to see any detail on them. It doesn't look like their faces are as well molded as the other Rubicon crew that I had for the Tiger II, and it looks like the whole sprue is actually slightly warped as well. That doesn't really bother me that much, considering the fact that it's warped in the middle and none of the pieces themselves are actually warped. So yeah, this sprue, again, I think it's one of the common Panzer IV sprues. Yeah, pretty good. Next up, we have E sprue. This is the other turret front option. I'm pretty sure that's the one we'll be using for the J. All of the hatches, the two upper hull pieces, turret skirts in, hull rear, hull front, and the turret skirts in assembly rig, where you put these two pieces in, and then there are some connectors on the other sprues that you can line up with those. Here you can see there's some nice texture that they molded in here. It's probably a little bit over scale, but that really can pass at this scale. They need to represent it in some way, and given the limits of modern injection molding techniques, no one can really blame them. They have actually added a little bit of depth here so that you can put the crew figures in, which is a nice touch. Although, especially given the fact that they use these pegs to attach it to the other piece of the upper hull. All of the Pioneer tools are molded directly onto the hull, which some might find a little bit not great in general. Harder painting, and the detail might not be as sharp, but the detail is pretty sharp in general, although, might be a little bit more of a nuisance to paint. Alright, on to the next sprue. This next sprue has even more turret options. I think this is actually getting onto a specialized OSF J sprue, or perhaps a J and H sprue. I'm not really familiar with Rubicon, the way that they've run their Panzer IV series, so I apologize if I've been mislabeling sprues or parts. But, doing my best based on what I can see based on the details. Hull sides, another turret top, 2 different turret backs, and turret sides. Here you can see the cupola, and they've molded the hatch for the cupola separately. 2 different manlet options. The MG34 that could be mounted on the cupola ring, although I don't see the mounting option for that. It is well rendered for such a small scale. The MG34. This also has some of the more various things. You've got, I think, the exhaust, some of the spare road wheels, different options for the return rollers, or not the return roller, the idler wheel and the drive sprocket. And this also actually looks like it has a couple of Pioneer tools that were already welded onto the hull, molded on in here. We'll see if there's really a difference there. We have to replace anything. Also looks like this piece might go on the back of the hull. Our final sprue is a fully specialized OSF J sprue. It comes with the Schertzen mounting brackets and the Schertzen mounting rig, spare road wheels, the late model cupola, the OSF J turret top, the J turret back, the J hull back, and some of the more specialized hatches and turret fronts. The J had a lot of differences from the earlier H and G models because it was actually a downgrade, not an upgrade. It was purely to speed production, to fill in the losses that units had taken on the front. So, you didn't even have a electrically powered turret drive on this thing. So a lot of the pieces look different simply because they were designed to be machined easier. The jig should be pretty helpful. I'm not totally sure how I'm going to use it yet, but, that's what the instructions are for. Here you can see the track, which is pretty well molded, and, there's pretty good detail on all of these pieces for the scale, definitely. And last but not least, for our pieces, we have our decals and our photo etch. We'll start with the decal sheet. This is a pretty generic decal sheet, not specially for the Panzer IV OSF J kit, simply for German tanks in general. You obviously weren't going to see an OSF J in Africa, but here we have Africa decals. But it comes with all the turret numbers you could ever want, different types of Balkenkreuzes. Should really be interesting figuring out a marking scheme for this. It really, lets you use your reference photos. Finally, we've got the photo etch, side skirts. So here are the 2 side skirts. They are the mesh versions, and we also have the photo etch mounting brackets here. Just the tiny little ones, not the full brackets, and the upper pieces that stop things from going over and into the side skirts. These were made out of mesh because it saved materials, like many of the reasons for the OSF J. Now these look pretty nice and thin. They resemble the other photo etch I've seen from Rubicon. And they're well cut, don't seem that flimsy, but they do seem bendable. The only
quarrel that I might have with these is that it looks like it might be difficult to remove certain skirts and plates. Instead of making them each separate, they mold them all as one, and it will be really difficult to remove one of them without damaging the others. But, you know, that only really comes down to what I decide to make, and it also looks like I could punch a hole in one of them pretty easy and, you know, mess it up a little, give it a little bit of character. So, yeah, overall, I'd say this is a pretty well-molded kit. It's not my favorite compared to the Rubicon's Tiger 2, which was an absolutely excellent kit. But overall, yeah, I'd say that this kit is pretty good, well-molded, well-detailed, but just looking at the sprues, it could get a little confusing because they have 3 or 4 options of everything. All right, thank you very much for watching. I will see you next time.